The other day, I overheard someone I know tell her friends that she was no good at self-care. She said her friends think she's good at it, but she wasn't so sure. Yes, she's trying to eat well and exercise and go to therapy, and yes, she would take walks outside when she was stressed, but none of it felt like self-care. She was just finding ways to keep going in the midst of all this. And all this is a lot. Many of us were dealing with a lot before all this even landed. Before 2016, before active destruction of our government and society was even on our minds, before this regime got us involved in a war in the Middle East. Our lives were already a lot. Work, family, volunteering, and our culture of go, go, go meant that any attention we pointed at ourselves was coming out of a very small energy budget, if we had any at all. And now, it's nearly impossible to avoid being too much aware of the pain of the world right now. The ongoing chaos, the threats to democracy, the rule of law, human rights, innocent lives, here all over the world, everywhere we look. It is easy to consume more pain than we can process. And the more we pay attention to the details, the more horrible it gets. I don't have to tell you, I know you all know. So how do we take care of ourselves when everything around us is trying to set our fight or flight systems on fire? How do we calm our bodies enough to keep our bearing when we all have the capacity to freeze or collapse under the strain or go numb from overload? As Ijoma asked, what does it mean to be whole in this world? How do we stay whole? How do we sort out the good advice when so much has been co-opted by white culture mixed generously with capitalism? How do we select what we need, what will work to sustain us? How do we pick what is suitable when so much is packaged for consumption? How do we radicalize our self-care in this dangerous world? So I'm going to start by talking about self-care. I'm going to split self-care into 3 modes so that we can get a better grip on what it is and what it does and why. Self-care as a term, some of you might actually even remember when this came into being, was originally used in the 60s and 70s as an effort to address health inequality and disparate medical outcomes in medical care, where the distinction between good outcomes and poor outcomes were often about access, poverty, nutrition, and other factors that physicians couldn't control. Good self-care in this mode might mean taking your medications on schedule, going to all your appointments, and following care instructions provided by your doctor. That's the self-care my friend was talking about. Eating well, exercising, resting, going to therapy, going to the doctor. Medically oriented parts of their life that were under their personal authority. And those are important. But there's more to self-care than that. In the 70s and onward, self-care became more focused on stress and trauma, especially for jobs that were high stress and high trauma, like social workers, emergency room staff, and therapists. This is where more of the mental to physical exercises in calm started to build in. Meditation, yoga, relaxation practices, mindfulness, Tai Chi. And like the medical mode, this trauma-reactive mode of self-care was oriented to giving control to the individual so they could experience less impact from the stressful conditions of work. Are you starting to see a pattern here? As we continued through the 90s and the early 2000s, spiritual practices merged lanes as well. So prayer practices, walking labyrinths, religious contemplation, and alternative spiritual and religious rituals started reaching pop culture visibility, again oriented to meeting unmet emotional and spiritual needs, again from a self-driven perspective. Personal development, individual spiritual growth, and a deeper individual connection to the divine were often goals. So those are the three modes: physical, stress and trauma, and spiritual. And of course, capitalism always has to have a hand in. So we now have week-long retreats for self-care at 5-star luxury destinations with costs that are so high they're not listed on the brochure. And those retreats might be amazing. And they're also inaccessible to most people. At the lower end of the capitalist version of self-care, we also have workplace self-care classes. Learn to meditate during your workday so you can be more productive. Does it help? Sure, at an individual level. But sure matches the cultural narrative. None of those approaches actually address the cause of distress. Nobody was making a buck or filling their classes by fixing broken systems, the things that cause the health inequality, workplace trauma, or the spiritual disconnection. The ones who focus on causes don't get visible. The ones who got visible place the responsibility on you. We teach you how, then you do it. If it doesn't help, the implication is that it's a you problem. And like Ijeoma Oluo said in the reading, we don't survive times like these on our own. We survive them together. And if we can't protect our bodies, we can protect our joy. The self-care we need for times like these isn't isolated self-regulation, it's collective co-regulation. I'm talking about intentionally co-regulating. Yeah, co-regulation is becoming a more common term, so you may have heard it, but it's basically having one person's self-regulation of their emotional state or their autonomic function or their system help another person's neurological system calm itself. If I get calm, you get calmer than you were. We both feel better. This is basically Piggy and the elephant. We do this all the time automatically, but we don't usually call it self-care. Still, anytime we take a deep breath and let it out slowly while talking with a friend about a difficult subject, we're either regulating ourselves or we're helping them co-regulate. Any time we do this, we're moving from the individual to the collective. It's impossible to co-regulate entirely by yourself. We also co-regulate by singing together, by dancing to the same music, by consent-based touch, by holding someone's hand when they're distressed, or sending a virtual hug by text if that's what works for them. It can occur while sharing a meal, while laughing together on the phone, working collaboratively on our collective justice work. Co-regulating can be by video call, by text, or email, or social media messenger. I don't want to toss out the other forms of self-care, though, because I think we can leverage them differently for our advancing needs. We need the physical health self-care, the stress reduction self-care, the spiritual self-care, especially since the systems that are causing those problems, the systems that cause that distress, are not fixed yet. Even if we're working on fixing them, we still need the work to help us now. I don't even have a problem with most corporate self-care systems, except that they pretty much always let slip that they're hoping you'll take fewer sick days as a result. So how do we do self-care together? How do we make it part of our lives? The first piece of subversive work there is having faith that there is a collective we who are working on this. We are trying to grab back what we can and salvage the rest. We are together in this work. I don't even need to know which we for that faith, but it's not all on you. I don't drop my part, but I don't need to carry it all. We don't need to carry it all. So that means we're always orienting to the collective, whether it's just one other person or a group. We can do collective self-care online by asking an online friend to be a meme buddy. Just reach out when we're feeling a little overwhelmed and wobbly and say, hey, can you meme me? Send me something that made you smile. We don't have to do it alone. It was always a group project anyway. We're allowed to have other people help. Another radical approach is to stop demanding perfection of our self-care and even our community care. It's a myth that it's necessary to be utterly consistent in how we perform over time. Year in, year out. It's not even possible. Everyone has off days, and we are not machines. Perfection is toxic in multiple ways, and being human is untidy. We do not have to be perfect. And on that note, it's okay to fall apart and put ourselves back together a zillion times. Under extra pressure, our cognitive energy gets expended more quickly. Most of us are running on neurological fumes. We may lose track. We might not be able to sustain habits. We get disorganized. It should be expected that our brains are not able to keep going at peak continuity right now. Extra if disability is a factor. Maybe your organization system seemed to be working for months and is now chaos and needs a restart. Okay, that sounds pretty normal. It's okay to fall apart over and over again. And that rolls right into the next item. Be kind to ourselves and each other. Be generous and forgiving and lavish in our affection for our quirks and foibles. We're all a hot mess. And we're all awesome. Embrace that. You're worthy of every good thing, and so am I. Some might not be possible, but we are so very worthy. If we can be backstops for each other, talk to a friend about being self-care buddies by email or text when the day has been hard and we're off balance, how great would that be? We all deserve to give and receive kindness and accept it when it's offered. It's also possible, sometimes, to have an in-person self-care friend who is good at calming their body so we can physically co-regulate when nothing else seems to work. Get together and have them calm their body with their favorite deep breathing or relaxation technique first, and then follow with your own. I've done that with my kids, and I have done that on video calls with other people. We do it when we invite someone over for tea. We can borrow someone else's calm. And lastly, lean into what brings you joy. Being ourselves, all you, all me, do that. Write poetry, meet up with friends, become a meme librarian. Every ounce of joy is needed, every droplet. It doesn't even have to be a lot of effort for the other person for it to have a lot of impact for you. I have a buddy who sends me pictures of his dog, and I send him pictures of the sky. Always turns our days around. Little joyful things, low effort, high impact. Embrace the joy and the beauty of the world. We don't have to reinvent the self-care models that we've been given. We can still include the medical and trauma reactive and spiritual practice modes of self-care. They're worthy tools. Even the capitalist or corporate tools can be useful. Self-care isn't new work, but we are starting to learn more. We're just catching up, scientifically, with those who have been doing this work in dire times for centuries. Radical care in dangerous times has never relied on solitary work. It's collective. Whether just one person working with you across the internet or a crew of people you see every day or on Sundays, we do this work of living together. Self-care for these times has to acknowledge the complexity of what is real, and then it has to show us how to be alive with joy in the world and kindness for ourselves and others. As Ijoma Oluo said in her newsletter, this isn't separate from the struggle, this is the struggle. This is the insistence that we live now and how we live matters. In a culture that teaches us to be separate individuals, that rewards us and punishes us on individual achievement, the most radical thing we can do is help each other. So yes, take those deep, slow breaths or pause and meditate on your own. And maybe send a meme or share some music with a friend. Text someone to say you were thinking of them. Borrow someone else's calm when you can't find your own. Protect someone else's joy. Let ourselves be imperfect and know that we can fall apart and still be whole. And remember, always, always, we don't have to do it alone, especially now in these times. We do this living, human and messy and joyful, together. Amen and blessed be.